Hello, my brothers and sisters. Again, I continue the lecture. Uh, I'm very sorry because I was forced to interrupt the going lecture. I just wanted to have some little bit privacy so I can feel a little bit comfortable when I talk. Yes, we talked about the balance. As I said, those four elements that are very important for us to understand what we want in life and what make us happy. We talked about balance, and I took a couple of examples from the how we see luxury, and I said that it is better, it is always good to hit the middle point, and I talked about spirituality and materialism, and I gave example how excessive spirituality can really lead to somebody who is totally ineffective in life and doesn't care about what's going on around him. While the reasonable kind of spirituality is the one which creates a balance so that you are active in life, you're doing your duty, you don't think too much of the material thing, but at the same time, you're also connected to the spiritual thinking and spiritual dimension of life. One of the areas which I really would like to talk about when it comes to balance is in relationship, love and sexuality. And that's one of the areas which is really kind of hot spots of, like, as one say, and I wanted to avoid talking about it, but I think it's very important. And it's one of the areas where really the modern life have kind of is stressing us a lot. Now, again, when it comes to sexuality and partnership and living with other person, whether you're a man, you want to live with a woman, or a woman which want to live with a man, or even if you are from the same sex. Regardless, that's not the issue here. People often in that area of life, their unhappiness comes because they take one of the two extremes. Either they are very restrictive in their sexual life, their desires, their willingness to meet new people, and for simplification, let's talk about, for example, both a man and a woman, just to simplify things. Now, there are a lot of men who have the desire and the willingness to expand their love relationships with people, with girls, with women. But out of consideration for society, and out of consideration for the legal context, and out of consideration for the the norms, and as I said before, I'm not going to talk about these things because I'm not concerned about this. I'm talking about the human being itself. If a person is satisfied with a single relationship, it's no problem. But there are men who are really desiring more than one partner, and uh, and they are not satisfied with that. They are not satisfied with having only their wives. Some of them they play around with other girls and lovers, and it's win-win. Many men who are living with their wives, they have other relationships. Okay, but there's still maybe few. Maybe a man has one lover or something that he goes to in the weekend. But this is kind of minimum thing. Now there are men who are satisfied with with living with a single with their wives, and they don't even any desire to expand that. And this is a personal choice. But when it comes to sexuality and love, we have the other extreme, which are men who are, you know, cannot settle down with few number of women, let alone one woman. They have many relationships, and they never leave a chance to try to build the relationships and like run after girls, and they never really get satisfied. I mean, sometimes when you look at those people at the top in the you know the, the power corridors of the world, and some of the people, for example, in the movie sector, the cinema sector, and when you look at and we'll tell you the thousands of numbers of women they have been with. That's extreme also. And the thing is that those people, they never felt really content or satisfied with that. Can we discuss in this issue, in this context, can we discuss a balance point? In abstract meaning, yes. Now, I'm not talking about what the laws allow or not allow, because this is another thing. Because in reality, and every person knows that, in societies where laws restrict marriage to one woman, that in itself doesn't grant that this person has only one relationship. Often, many of those men has more than one relationships, and as long as as long as those people did not uh, marry, because that's what that is what the law prohibits, is marriage to more than one woman. As long as that is not done, then society cannot say anything, and people do it. Women do that. And a lot of women know that their husbands have lovers. Uh, so let's take an example, so you understand this. I mean, if a person is of this type who want to have more than one, there are people who have only living with one woman and they are satisfied. Let's talk about those people who want to have more than one woman. Uh, and they have the means for that, and the ability. What they should think of is that desire, if it went out of control, I mean, they can handle one lover female, or maybe two lovers female. And I'm talking about love relationships. And a marriage is a completely different thing, because marriage is a legal issue. I'm not talking about legal issues now. But suppose this man want to have three relationships with two, three girls, even if he's not married to any of them. But let's say he want to have relationship with two, three girls, and he's satisfied with that. Then he has at least some balance in his life, in compared to somebody who has his sexuality and love relationship is loose. He doesn't have any control of them. Uh, so in I mean, what I'm trying to say in this context is that, as I said, in the material thinking, uh, you may be satisfied with one woman in your life, and that would be great, no problem. I think maybe that would be the ideal thing. But if a man is not satisfied with one woman in his life, then he should not kind of let this thing control him. So he just try to get one woman, two women, four women, 100, because at the end he will not be able to sustain that process. And instead of this multiple relationships making him happy, it will make him miserable. And he will not live a happy sexual life. He will love life. He has to constrain himself to some extent, at least, I say at least. If he can, if he feel that, I mean, I'm satisfied with one part. I don't want even to think about that. That's great. That would be good, and he will find happiness in that. But I'm talking about the sector of, the men who are eager or desiring to have more women, and how they can control this, because they really have to hit the balance point. If they let that thing drive them, they will not be satisfied if they knew all the whole woman of the world. And sometimes, it's amazing when you read stories of how, some of the actors, uh, male actors in Hollywood, and some of the uh, people of at power in their side, is that, that they would have 100 women lover, or 1,000 women lover, or, somebody pronouncing that he have been with such number of women. It's crazy, because what intimate sexual relationship can give you of love and appreciation cannot be gained by increasing the numbers that way. And it's not. It is really true in reality of life that those people who, who desire to have multiple relationships. And I say this out of just only reflections of what I see in the documentaries on, like on the YouTube, on the TV programs that comes. uh, it always talk about, you know some limited number of relationships, because each of these relationships need time. So so so, so you come up to some smaller figures. Those people who doesn't have control of their sexuality alone, and they spend their years running after satisfaction, they will never find it, because they will never find that by numbers. They will find it by focusing on the individuals who are they are in relationship with, whether a man or woman. Now, this goes also the other side of it. This also goes for women. I mean, some women maybe like to is satisfied with having one person, one man, but some of them maybe would like to have more than one man. And again, I'm here neutral this. I'm not judging the morality of these things or the religious aspects of it. But if that desire exists, again, it is different. It's completely different than having, you know, larger number of men in the life of this girl, or having some reasonable, some balance point in her life. And I saw a documentary one time about a girl which had, and she had what she called a disease. She described her case as a disease because she was running. Her desire for additional sex was so impulsive and so strong that she was just sometimes desperate and running. You know, uh, that her desire is like running out of control. And the same thing for me. So even in that area, even in this even in this area, balance is very important. And does laws in the different countries regarding our sexuality reflect that balance? I leave it for you to judge, but definitely for those people who are, for those people who are talking about multi relationships, they see these laws as a hinder. And laws really, regulations and laws, are a little bit funny, because if you go, give you example how things are a little absurd in countries like Saudi Arabia. uh, it's not allowed for the woman to disclose her clothes and swim with the bikini on the beach. So the society is controlling the women's sexuality in that essence. It doesn't allow her to expose her body. That is restrictive on one side. On the other side, the laws in Saudi Arabia allow for this multi relationship thing. You go to other sites, you find freedom from one direction and restriction on the other direction. And surely, every society has the right to decide on the norms and the conditions of how people should live. And I don't question that. And I think people should accept this. And to be frank with you, the legal issues are not very important. There are people in the world who have relationships, outside marriages, and they don't care. They don't give a damn whether this relationship is legitimized or not, because the law is very clear. What the law prohibits is the marriage itself, but law doesn't prohibit sexual and other relationships between individuals. It's the same thing. There are a lot of countries which punish for homosexuality, and some of them are, they have severe punishment for homosexuality. But did that stop homosexual men or homosexual women from having affair together? You cannot stop the human drive, and I think I am a person, I have a philosophy in life regarding this. Now, I distinguish between a personal choice and the interference of society. Now, if you, for example, as a person, out of your conviction as a Christian person, for example, that the only permissible kind of marriage is a single marriage, that's your own conviction, and you live that conviction. That's your own conviction, no problem. Or if you believe in other, if you have a, if you're Mormon, for example, who believe in this rule of marriages, as they say, it's your conviction. But what I'm trying to say is that I am a person who believes that society should never interfere in our own personal choices. I am a person who happen to be a liberal, in the meaning that I believe that every human being has the right to decide on how he wants to live in all aspects, in everything, in materialism, how in relation to spirituality, in relation to love and sexuality. Society doesn't have the right to dictate how people should live. What the society has the right to is to draw lines on what is acceptable and not acceptable in terms of the sequences or the consequences. But my conviction is that any choices we made as adult people. Now I'm talking about adult people. I'm talking about people who are reach the legal age of responsibility. So as long as the choices we make as adult people are harmless and doesn't impact anybody in negative way. And the choices we make in life are done through our own conviction. And we do it with the total acceptance and without any forcing or then why others should interfere with us. And I'm not talking about specifically about the love and marriage relationships and partnerships. Um, this is an area this is very kind of contradictory because it is an area where there's a lot of talking about, and if you open the internet, there's all programs all these things. But I believe in this as a general concept in life, in anything. I believe, for example, that the interference of the government in the economic society has to be balanced between the individual right to make money and the government's right to control that this process occurs in the right way. It's the same thing when it comes to everything, expressing your views. Nobody should interfere on my ability to express my views. So as long as these views are not racial in their nature or they are harming other people. And I believe the same thing when it comes to life, family life, sexuality, love relationships. Straightforward and honestly. Because these are areas where very, very special to us. And what is good for somebody may be not good for others. I mean, there are men who are very happy with their lives and they never even think of having somebody else in their life. But there are men who feel that they're in their heart they're a place for some more people. So I mean, who I am to judge on that? Who I am to judge on other people's needs and desires? And the same thing, it can be a woman who has the desire to love more than one man. If you believe in freedom, if one believes in freedom of human being, then you cannot really dictate it. You cannot tell. If you don't believe in the human freedom, this is another. If you says no, individuals that doesn't have any right. It is society and the culture that has to control us. As they say, for example, in many countries that were like the Muslim world, culture and things are so strong, and people feel the right to dictate other people's life without even any hesitation. Now, I don't accept that. I mean, I left the Arab world because I feel that I cannot. My rights as a human being are not respected. So I'm a very strong advocate of letting the people make their own choices in the framework of the law, within the law. But if the choices the people make them happier, then that is the objective. The other thing, I think laws and regulations are in their nature are not static, and they are impacted also by the needs of the people. And as I said, this is not the time to discuss this because I'll be doing a completely different lecture about that in connection between laws, regulations, and how society is developed. And I have many examples of that from the Arab world, where laws changed because the societies of the Arab world did change through time. And they changed, societies change. Every day there's all impulses that come to us, new philosophies in life, the way we think about things. I mean, before talking about homosexuality was a taboo. Nobody wanted to talk about it. It's the same thing, just before I came, I saw a program on YouTube about the different forms of partnerships. that are coming up now in the American society. Even the definition of family, the traditional family, a man, a woman, single, a man and a woman, is really changing. We have another forms of families. But the concern here for me is to talk about happiness. That's what I'm trying to talk about. And it says that is that regardless of the laws, or if you take that issue aside, as a human being, fulfilling your sexuality and love desires have to be in balance. An excessive utilization of that will make you run all your life, try to satisfy these things, and you never satisfy them. On the other hand, depriving yourself of your sexual needs and love needs are will not make you happy. And the idea systems or scientists which really try to suppress the sexual desire of the humanity and the desire for the other sex, or the sexual desires in general, they really do fail. We know that from history that the Catholic Church, which demands its priests to abstain from sexuality, they had suffered so much because of that, and the cases of misconduct and sexual harassment within the Catholic Church, which was disclosed in the last couple of years, shows how arrogant it is to think that we can suppress down our sexuality and our desire for the other sex. And one of the reasons that Protestantism in general has less of this problem. It exists, but far less, because in the Protestant idea system, the priest doesn't need to live without sexual life. He can marry and still priest. So you cannot. Neither excessive, uncontrolled sexuality is good, nor deprivation of sexuality is good. What is good is a balance point between the two. Now, what is that balance point? Is it having a wife and be satisfied with that, or having a wife and a couple of lovers, women? I don't. I don't interfere. This is a personal thing. And the same thing for a woman. Is her happiness by having just one lover, or does it make her happy to have 3 other lovers? I don't know. It's personal. It's every human being should decide on that himself. And our drives are so strong as human beings, and although laws help us and regulate these desires, but laws can never control how we relate to things. And it is a fact that even though the multi marriages are illegal in most of the countries now, nobody have stopped men of having multiple relationships outside the marriage. And you can call it what you call, but it happens. On the other side, no regulations has stopped women from having more than one. And no laws have stopped the drive of living in a homosexual relationship. Even in the most extreme countries that fight homosexuality, there are things happening despite all the laws and despite all the. So maybe it is wiser to kind of accept that and accept that the interference of society on our own private life is probably would have to be restricted to the basics. Yeah, I took this issue took time because it is an issue which is, I know it is a sensitive issue, and I thought really whether I would like to talk about it or not, but I could not leave that area. I mean, I could not. It would be hypocritical from me not to talk about balance when it comes to sexuality and love relationships. And again, uh, I'm not here discussing laws, regulations, religions. I'm discussing, the concept of balance itself. The second factor which is important to observe is that when you decide on what you want in life and make you happy, these things have to be your own. It should not be a reflection. It should not be impacted solely by what other. Now we are human beings. We get influences out from outside. There's no discussion about it. But what I'm talking about is the feeling that I want to do what the people want from me, because that will never make you happy. Never. It's not important what the people want from you. The most important thing is what you want from yourself. And in that sense, I don't feel, but this is personal, I don't feel that a person who is having, you know, a man who have a lover outside marriage is doing something wrong. If he himself is convinced of that and he's making that woman happy, but at the same time, his wife knows about that and she is happy with it. As long as the partners which are involved are happy about what's going on, then I don't think there's any problem with that. So it has to come as a conviction. We have a big problem in modern societies where consumption or the marketing is driving people into craziness because it demands them to consume, consume, consume. The young girls and the young boys are under huge stress to consume, and they are unable to stop and reflect themselves on whether this is the kind of thing they want to have or not. You see, this is important. It is very important that the way we see happiness, the way we see things that are make us happy, have to be coming from outside and from inside. And not everybody of us is really impacted easily by what other but by what others says. But the ones among us who really doesn't cannot stand against what others tell us and are so much hooked to this society pressure on us on defining what makes us happy or not make us happy is I mean the ones who are able to resist are the ones who really live in the real happiness. The ones who are just trying to follow what the streams tell them are really true sufferers. And there in history there's a great stories of how the human beings when they write when they stand for what they love, for the one they love, and stands for the things that they love, and do not accept the dominance or the tyranny of society or them, they end up to be happy people. And I know a story of, I remember a story in England of the King of England. I think he's George V. I'm not very sure. That he was given the choice between fulfilling his love relationship with the lady that he loved, and she was from the normal people, from the people, or losing his crown or throne. He willingly sacrificed the throne for his love, and he lived a very happy life. Maybe he was not king, maybe he did not die as a king, but definitely he died as a happy human being. So it is important that we should be very strong inside ourselves and not allow the people, others, to dictate what make us happy and what make us really enjoying life. And most of the people that I met in my life who were really miserable in their life were such kind of people who are very easy impacted by what others said. And I tell you, I can disclose that, I can admit that to you, that in the early stage of my life, I was very, very susceptible and sensitive to what others people wanted from me. And I regret that a lot. I regret that at a certain point in my life, I was so much impacted by other people that all what I did was trying to make other people happy rather than make myself happy. But I learned my lesson, and I'm now a person who really pursue his own happiness. Uh, I mean, I listen to the other people, even the ones who are close to me. I try to uh, take right decisions in my life, but I'm not again and will not allow myself again to be impacted the same way I was impacted before when it came to uh, living my own life and fulfilling my own happiness. This is very important. Your choices of life has to be based on your own convictions, not what society tells you, not what others tells you, not what the whole world tells you. Because the whole world can be wrong, by the way. The whole world can be wrong. So don't let other people dictate your definition of happiness and live your own life out of your own conditions, out of your own convictions. And don't compromise on that. What I mean, don't compromise on your right to decide what makes you happy, regardless. You can listen to the people, you can evaluate, you can try to work hard to understand. Don't compromise on these things because you will never get out anything of compromise in these issues. And the great love stories in life, for example, is coupled to that. That at a certain point, you need really to stand on your stand solid and defend your right to be happy. I mean, this King George V, if he hesitated a moment, he would not have lived the happy life he lived and the rewarding life he lived. We have the tragedy of Prince Diana, for example. A good example of what happened when, for the sake of appearances, the sake of satisfying the general arrangement of things, one in being totally unhappy. And everybody knows the story. I won't go into that. I learned that the hard way, and now I'm a completely different person. I don't allow anybody to impact my choices in life when it comes to happiness. I always pursue what makes me happy, not what make other people happy. Now, naturally, when I'm happy, the people who likes me, who loves me, they would be happy also. And that is a true love. I mean, if somebody loves you only because you do things as he wish, then he doesn't love you truly. True love based on accepting the other person and accepting his decisions in life and feeling happy for his happiness. Okay. The third thing is belonging, and the issue of belonging is really tricky because as I said before in part A of the lecture, that as social animals we really need a connection with people, and we need to feel that we are belonging to certain place, and we have a connection to time and space. And when I talked about in lecture A, when I talked about the kind of life I lived and how much for many years I really felt hanging in the air, as they say. I did not have any roots, in no place. That really impacted me and impacted my connection to my happiness. And I really fought very hard to reach to that. And as I said before in part A, when I was giving the Swedish citizenship 1993, that was a turning point in my life, because suddenly I had a route, I had a place, I belonged to somewhere. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're born in certain contexts and it's certain belonging, that you have to live with that all your life. I mean, people change their religions, for example. They change their commitments. Uh, they move from one country to another country because they feel that they have better conditions there. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that belonging is a very important part in our cycle that give us happiness. And people who are diffused about where do they belong, and they feel that they don't belong to any place, they feel very lonely. And I felt very lonely during certain periods of my life because of that, just because of that, because the social setting around me was not clear, and my belonging was not clear. My definition to myself was not clear. So belonging in a positive way. Now, belonging in a negative way, belonging that make you feel special about your nation or your religion, belonging that feeds in you superiority thinking, is not the kind of belonging I'm talking about. This is negative belonging. I'm talking about positive belonging. I'm talking about belonging which make you feel in connection to the world around you, in a social connection to the world around you. That kind of belonging is very important, and it helps us get stability in life. And those people who are, the people who are refugees, or people that move from one country to another, they never find happiness until they really settle. And I myself, I have connections to these environments. I know how hard it is. It's how hard it is to find happiness when you really don't know where you belong, when you're just floating around. Many of the young immigrants, children who are brought up in Sweden, and who had, unfortunately, parents who are unable to decide whether Sweden is their country, or their original countries are their countries. The kids get confused. They get different signals. They are tortured and split it between two words, and they don't belong to any of them. And eventually these kids become troublesome kids, and then probably they will end up to be failure. And we have this problem in Sweden. We have this problem in Sweden. And I always tell the people that don't don't overload your kids with this uncertainty. Your kids have the right to feel that Sweden is their country, and that their belonging is here 100%. If you are not sure about yourself, this is your problem. But don't transfer that to your kids, because they will be unhappy. And always, by the way, always unhappiness lead to disastrous actions. Unhappiness is behind the criminal actions of people. Nobody who's happy and satisfied and feeling good will like to do bad things. Never. It's unhappiness that create extremism in life. And by the way, this is a fact. I mean, the Nazi party in Germany could have never, never, never dominated Germany if the Germans were happy people. No, the Germans were suffering. They were unhappy people. They got out of a war that costed them a lot, and unfortunately, the politicians at that time, after the First World War, who took over the situation, history proved that they were egoistic, and they were the most stupid politicians that we have ever had, because instead of supporting the German people and standing with them and helping them create a happy existence, they only thought of utilizing them and sucking their blood for them, because Germany was not in the position to pay all these compensation money. What that did is that left the Germans suffering, they left them unhappy, they left them disoriented, and when Nazism came, it was easy for them just to run into that direction. Some of them were wise enough and knew the danger, but the masses, they wanted to get out of that situation. So unhappiness leads to extremism, and belonging is very important. And belonging to a healthy society. I meet a lot of Arabs who really are very mad about things that are happening. So belonging need to be coupled to good circumstances, to healthy circumstances. But it is important, and it is part of our happiness, ingredients in our happiness. The last thing is inclusion. Last thing is inclusion. And inclusion is a very simple thing. What inclusion says simply that it's not, a happy person is not a person who is very successful in that area and a total failure in other areas. I mean, if you are a milliardaire and you have all the money in the world, but you are miserable in your love and sexual life, what do you do with that money? If you are a milliardaire, okay, and your relationship to yourself and your philosophy of life is screwed out, what you can do with that? And the same thing, if you have very sexual rewarding, very sexually rewarding life and very love rewarding life, and you are not able to grant for yourself the minimum level of materialistic living, and I don't mean that you have to live in luxury, but I mean that you have to secure for yourself some good housing, and you be able to eat good in a reasonable way. If you are only spiritual in your life, okay, you are the highest enjoyment of the spirituality, but you're deprived of your sexuality and closeness to a partner, then what is the life? What is the meaning of your of your spirituality? So what I'm saying that the real happy person is a person who has accomplished success, reasonable success in all these areas. And when you look at great figures in life, you find that balance in their life. You find that inclusion in their life. Like I take, for example, one historical example is Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad. He succeeded in his project, just spreading of Islam, but on the same time, at the personal level, he wasn't only happy as a leader and as somebody who had a project which is succeed. But even at the personal level, I mean, he was a husband and he has kids and he enjoyed love. He enjoyed social living. He was living humble. He was not that rich, but also he lived a reasonable life. The same thing with the great personalities in life. Uh, and the people we're looking to, and we try to use a role model. We try to find all these things together in them. I mean, definitely Jesus is a great figure, and we learned a lot from him. But there are other areas in his life which were not complete. He did not have a family, for example. He never had kids. Now, certain areas we can relate to Jesus. I'm talking about Jesus the man, not Jesus the God. But in other areas there was some deficiency. Uh, but we look at John F. Kennedy, for example, and we admire him because John F. Kennedy had somehow complete life. What I mean with that is that he has all the element in his life. He was a successful politician. He came from reasonable rich families. He had his basics in life secured in a good way. He had wonderful families. He has kids. We always try to see completeness in other people. Now Jesus Christ is a completely different thing because Jesus Christ, according to the Christian methodology, Christian theology, is also God. So we cannot really compare him to other people. We cannot compare him to Muhammad or John F. Kennedy or Moses, for example. Moses, the same thing. He lived, good life, and he was the living in the Pharaoh's house. So I mean, materially, he lived very good. He got married. He had children. So again, to close, as again, I emphasize four things. When you want to evaluate whether you're a happy person or not, or what makes you happy, you really have to look at those four aspects together: balance, own motivation, or own conviction. I mean, belonging and inclusion. Uh, In relation to inclusion, I want to add something which is important. That's why one of the things that make us most happy is when we have philosophy in life that is total in its way. That's why inclusion cannot happen in our life if we don't have the philosophy of inclusion. I mean, if your philosophy in life based on being rich all the time, and I have friends who are having that direction in their life. They focus on making the money. They will never, and they can, they may accomplish great in that direction, but they will never find total happiness unless they really work with a project which is more, or have a philosophy which is uh, more complete. And it doesn't help if you pick certain areas in your life and just work hard to achieve yourself. You need to have a philosophy in life which is total. You need to have a philosophy in life which has a material element in it. It has some. It has to have some spiritual elements in it. It has to have some philosophical elements in it. It has to have some uh, social elements in it. It has to incorporate a wise way of looking at love and sexuality. It has to have some philosophy about life, family. It has to has even higher kind of thinking around what's good for societies and what's good for human being. And that's why the best ideas in life and idea systems in life to absorb in you to yourself is the ones who are broad in their nature. You know, it's not strange that major religions in the world has the highest number of people attaching to it. The number of people, if you took the word map and diagnosed, looked at the made an analysis, you will find the larger number of people in the world do belong and do practice religions which has this totalitarian, not totalitarian, religions which has this total understanding of things. I'm talking about basically about 5 religions. You know, and then there is other philosophies, but it is, you know, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. And this, by the way, in the university here in Gothenburg, these are the major 5 religions which are taught. Why do you think people choose these religions? I mean, there are different other systems in the world, idea systems. What's characterize all these 5 religions, idea systems, is that they are very broad in their structure. They are very encompassing in what they present to us. So my recommendation to you, my friends and brothers and sisters, is one way to grant your happiness in life is to search for a grand project in your life, grand idea system that encompasses all of your aspects of life. Don't settle into things that promote a single thing. And I'm saying this today because I meet a lot of young people who are, blinded by certain people, certain heroes, persons that are great in single areas. You know, this kind of thing. You know, and good. They're making good money, and so this is great. But that alone is not going to work. The only way is to combine these projects with the grand project. So if somebody, for example, believing in let's talk about dark marketing as a way where people are making money, you know, great money. And I have some people, friends of mine, who did that. That alone, that project alone, can never be a project for life. It can be a project to make money. It can be a project to make money, but it can never be a project for your life. And one of the things that I object to, and I hope my friends will forgive my honesty in that, one of the things that irritate me is that when somebody take a project like direct marketing, where the focus is on making money, and compare it to grand idea, compare it to Islam or compare it to Christianity. No, the direct marketing is a philosophy which is materialistic in its nature, and it aims to help people make money. And I don't have a problem with that. But to tell me that direct marketing is a total way of looking at life, and that it is equal in its embedment and in its encompassment to major idea like Islam, like Christianity, like Judaism, like Buddhism, like Hinduism, like communism, like capitalism. There is no way to compare them. It's like comparing a circle. I mean, I can show you a circle and tell you this is a total system, and I can draw a line in that, you know, from the center to the edge, and says this is an element in that total picture. This element is direct marketing. That element is direct marketing. But the circle is the great grand project. Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism. And It is very important for us as individuals to see the differences between these two things. Otherwise, we let other people cheat us and dictate our understanding of our happiness. I think now, with that, the lecture is now into closing. I want to stress again that what I want to reflect upon here is my understanding of how to attain happiness. And I know a lot of times what the laws says and what the regulations says and what the cultural context enforce on people is not always what makes them happy or not happy. But that's completely the other discussion. I was talking to you as individuals, as human beings. I'm trying to reflect on my experience to try to help all of us get wiser when it comes to our own happiness. I'm trying to apply these 4 components in my life. I'm trying to reach to decisions that make me more happy in life. And I'm learning every day. And I hope this lecture will somehow give you some direction to follow. And you know, this is not, as I said, this is only reflections, and I hope you find it reasonable and intelligent, and I welcome any comments from your side. I will leave my email on the page if you want to communicate with me. And again, as a person, I believe I'm a believer of the freedom of the individual to decide on what make him or her happy, as long as that goes along with total capacity of taking the right decisions and goes along with the total respect for the people involved in any setting we choose in fulfilling our happiness in any area, all areas, in business, in money, in education, in luxury issues, in social connection society, in love relationships, in love arrangement, in practicing our sexuality, in our unlust, and in trying to fulfill the dreams of our life. With that, I thank you very much and see you again. This is your brother, Adli Abouzeedan.